Good morning. I've been up probably for 2 hours now. Just a couple hours, yeah. Took the pups out and stood outside for a few minutes and then came back in, of course, and was just sitting and chilling and watching one of my more favorite people to watch. They're on YouTube. And they brought up a subject that I got curious about a little bit because I was like, that sounds interesting. So I looked it up and on, because they had brought up quantum entanglement. I don't know anything about it. I'm not a scientist. It's just how it is. I get curious about certain things and then I go look it up. And when I look it up, and I'm like, okay, this is crazy. My brain starts firing off a bit, and because as they were explaining it, and because they weren't completely sure how it works, and I guess neither does science, but it definitely inspired me to sit back and finally do another vid for my Lost in Thought Today channel, because now, like, my brain's firing off about it. After sitting down and looking it up and just starting to read it and all that, because I guess it's something that happens even amongst humans. And yeah, it's got my brain firing off like crazy. It happens in everything, not just humans. It basically happens in everything. It's at well, what is it like? I'll even pull it up real quick, just real fast, like, because yeah, it got me kind of it got my curiosity going. But basically, this is what it is, and I'm gonna repeat this on my other channel, because yeah, it's like, wow, I'm curious now. Now my brain's firing off, and it's been a while since I've been able to. It's been a little while since I've had that type of, I guess you could say, inspiration to, like, break my mind away from this other bullshit. But it kind of, to a degree, with what's going on in my mind right now with this, it's in a weird way, it's almost related. It's weird, but quantum entanglement is a bizarre counterintuitive phenomenon that explains how two subatomic particles can be intimately linked to each other even if separated by billions of light years of space. Despite their vast separation, a change induced in one will affect the other. So yeah, there's things, just reading off that, and then reading the part of, let's see here. When I read the part, is it possible in humans? It says, certainly, it is possible for atoms in two separate brains to become entangled. But the chances of this happening between you and the love of your life are as high as the chances of elements in your brain being entangled with a distant asteroid. There's other things going off my brain. So reading those two things, there's things that's been going off my brain right now that's, yeah. And to a degree, yeah, it's because of this fucking situation that's got me. That's kind of weird. It's because of what I've been dealing with, and then reading on that too. I don't know why my brain sort of connected the two. But I'm also starting to understand, like, where even social media has its part. Doesn't mean that somebody's actually meeting like the love of their life or not. No, not necessarily. There's a good chance that they already did and they have them in their life already, but because they keep interacting with these other things, I feel like that's where the temptation aspect starts to come in. And then you start doing stupid shit. So, I mean, or you start doing good things. It just depends on what it is. Because I feel like almost like that positive and negative, just like in magnetisms, that positive and negative intent is almost transferred in that sense. It sounds weird. It sounds kind of crazy, but it takes me to thinking of that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal, but not Butterfly Effect. Oh, motherfucker. Donnie Darko. And that's what it kind of reminds me of. But it's just on a different, it's weird. So, like, when they watching that, listening to the explanation in a bit, because they're still learning about it, and then reading what I have, I'm going, my brain is just going off right now. And I kind of missed that a little bit. And, yeah. Like, I get curious about a lot of things in this sense. And it's firing off other thoughts that I'm not going to necessarily bring it up in this because it's just it's weird. And I'm still trying to slow my brain down a little bit to process it a little better, because it's just I don't know. I kind of got excited about it. It's weird, and I'll put it this way: I failed science when I was going through school, and a lot of it was I just couldn't pay attention. I had a lot of trouble paying attention, and then some things just I didn't really have any interest. It didn't catch my curiosity for that moment, basically, and that's kind of one of my flaws. That it's like I have to open myself up more to be able to learn new things, I guess, without it being like restricted to when it's kind of in my view. So I feel like to a degree I've got a little tunnel vision. So it's like if I don't know if there's anything outside of this, then I don't really have interest in it. And so I've got to try and open myself up in the sense that, because anytime anything comes, it's like this, anything that comes into view, then it's like, if my brain catches it, or if I catch it, whatever, same thing, it'll lock onto that. And it's just like a friend of mine had posted a picture of them at Disneyland with the castle all lit up. And it looked fucking cool. While everybody else is complimenting them, I'm looking at the fucking castle going, that's pretty fucking awesome. Because it was pretty fucking awesome. My friend's awesome too. I'm just not like that. But, so no, that's just kind of how my brain works a bit. It's like, I'm looking at probably something in the background, that type of shit. I'm not always looking directly at you. But no, after kind of listening to that, and it got me curious. It's like, wait a minute. Excuse me. It's almost like a form of, well, it's not just almost, it is a form of influencing one energy to another, or in this case, one person to another. And it's what kind of energy you accept in and not. Some that you're more compatible with, whether it's negative or positive. And it's choosing whether or not you want to be a conduit for that negative or that positive, basically. So I'm not gonna say any more here. I'm still, my brain's still processing this stuff, and how because obviously I just learned about it, and it's like, okay, wait a minute, I'm not sure if I'm understanding it correctly, but I'm pretty sure I fucking understand it. And they're sitting there going, they're not quite sure how it necessarily functions, but in my brain, I immediately associated it to almost like, what is it? Your 6-7 senses, or whatever you want to call it. The senses that your body naturally uses when it comes to what triggers memory, what triggers hunger, what all that stuff. Your taste, what you like seeing, what you like hearing, the smells, all that. your natural senses. But my like I said, my brain's kind of triggering off. Got me a little excited for once because it's been a nice change to not be thinking about that. Like, yeah, it's a nice break. I can't guarantee later. I really can't. It's like there's a yeah, like I said, there's a roller coaster there. There's things that I'm still processing from that whole situation, and yes, there's a lot of things that are still bothering me. I'm just trying to redirect my attentions, my energies, all that stuff to something more positive instead of basically on someone who straight up made a deal with the devil, and I'm pretty sure I know who the devil is too. So she chose to go back to her hell. So I'm moving beyond that, and I'm just I'm gonna break it from there because I don't want to find myself slipping back. No, this other thing, I'm gonna sit here and, of all things, I'm actually gonna finally do a vid for my Lost in Thought channel for once. It's been a while, but I actually have more fun doing that stuff than I do sitting here talking about this, this shit that I've been dealing with on a regular basis. I'd rather be able to start posting something positive more often. If I'm going to share my, kind of my daily and just kind of some of what I do or deal with in life and just in general. I don't want it to all be shit. That's just basically what it is. It's like, I don't consider myself being the only one on this planet going through some sort of fucking hell. And being able to speak, let it out, that's been it's helped me a lot on being able to release a lot of that shit. That's why I prefer not to just go to anyone, like a specific person, like a friend or anything like that, because unless I know who and how they are when it comes to, when talking to them about certain things, it's like I'm not there for your advice, basically, in the sense of, should I do this or should I do that? No, it's more of a support aspect. Because it's my decision on what happens in a situation. And if I let somebody else influence that, then it's my fault if I make the wrong decision at that point because I based it on somebody else's fucking input that wasn't even a part of the situation completely. They just got to go by what they heard. And so that's why I use this to help add a little heat in the house. But that's why if I vent or air out, I try to be where it's venting and airing out. I'm not putting it into a position that I want somebody to give me advice or put their 10 cents in. That's why I have a lot of respect for my brother Nate, and then when it comes to my old brother Jess, because he was not like that either. He was more like myself in the sense of it's better to make amends and make things right and work things out and move forward, because that strengthens bonds. It's like a broken bone. You break that bone, and if it's, sure, it hurts, it's fucked up, but if it's reset right, either way, it's going to heal back thicker and stronger, but you want it to be properly set right so that you don't have to go back and re-break it because you learned that you fucked up and had it reset wrong. Or in that case, the doctor fucked up and reset it wrong. And so then they have to go back and re-break your leg. Yeah, you're growing stronger at that point, more resilient, but at the same time, you're building up a thicker and thicker wall that realistically you don't really need to have for everyone. But you know how brakes are, that 360 around the brake, it comes back usually thicker and stronger. It's like impacts. It's the same thing with martial arts. That's why they would smack rocks, all that shit, because they're strengthening the bone in their hand. That impact helps, those microfractures help strengthen it. But when you're outright breaking it, you're taking risk of, when you go to reset it, it's not necessarily going to be reset right. And you're going to go through the realization that you're going to have to go through that pain all over the fuck again before you figure out that you needed it to be set right. And then you have to break your leg again. That's kind of a life lesson in there too, if you're not paying attention. But we have to... Anyways, I'm going to cut away from that. I've already said I'm going to cut away from that shit. So, I mean, it's like I vent things, but I'm not out to ask for advice from people. I'm out to learn from others. You know, I'm out to, you know, I like feeding my brain. It's just it seeks information in a weird way, I guess you could say. And when it comes to my interests and my emotions, they are somewhat tied. Because when I'm dealing with a lot of depression, a lot of bullshit, it's hard for me to be able to focus on anything, and then it drains me. You know, it's a very much energy draining, life sucking, basically. You know, when you're dealing with the succubus, practically, whether they knew it or not, it takes those things away from you, because emotionally you're being taken away from it all. And it's not just, you know, mentally and so forth. You're being taken away from it in every aspect at that point, because once you start taking a person away from something by targeting any form of, whether it's their mind, body, or soul, we'll just break it down to those three things. You target any one of those threes and you start breaking them down, it's going to eventually start affecting the others. So, I mean, in a person. So it's like, it was nice to wake up, be able to sit down, watch something actually positive for a change, because it just seemed like here lately, half the things I'm watching, yeah, there's a lot of positive stuff in it, but there's a lot of negative shit, and it's just like, I don't want any of that at this point. I'm pretty tired. That's why, like, with this stuff going on with Israel and all, I haven't really been paying attention. I've been leaving even that situation in God's hands. I'm not taking sides on it. Yes, I'm very much on God's side. Yes, I'm very much on the side of civilians on both sides there, because they're suffering from two government entities basically warring, and they're caught in the fucking middle, and they're being pushed to choose sides. It's like, that's why this shit keeps going. It just, like, you know, you're either with me or against me mentality, and it's like, I don't want to be for or against you at this point when it comes to a lot of these guys, these politicians and these different ones who are saying I'm just doing my job. I don't have anything against our veterans. I know my dad's a veteran. I have a huge respect for our military folks out there who they are there to protect us. Downside is, regardless of what nation, what government, what form of politics you run under, you're still going to find yourself entangled in situations that you are led to believe it has to do with one thing, when really you're there doing it for another thing. And so, you know, we see that a lot, and a lot of the folks who have served understand what I'm trying to say there. I think there's situations where better calls could have been very much been made. And the downside is it's not the politicians and all that stuff who make these calls who have to deal with, are not the ones doing the actions themselves. It's like, you know, my favorite quote from my favorite movie, The Postman, is, wouldn't it be nice if wars were fought by the same assholes who start them? Because they're never fought. You know, politicians kill more people than anybody else, and they don't even have to pull a trigger. All they have to do is use one of these in their mouth, and then a camera like this. That's all they need. And in a matter of months, they can have thousands of people killed. So it's like, I want no part in some of this shit. I don't want to take sides with it, really, to be honest. And the only thing that I'm going to take from it is, if somebody's doing wrong, on either side, they need to be called out on that wrongdoing. When it comes to this war stuff, because of the last several years and just kind of seeing where everything's going, I kind of to some way, shape, or form, I think we all did it, whether we knew at a conscious level or subconscious level, that we were coming to a point here in this country that we're going to end up with a massive war before our next election, to some degree. And it could affect things in that sense too. So I'm just more or less trying to rely more on my faith in God than I am on people at this moment, because all I've been shown by people is that, minus the few, that humans are still objects to them, where material things are godly to them. I don't know how that makes sense in any way, but I think that's the only way I can get it out of my brain. We've got more people on the planet these days who put more power into cotton and ink than they do into each other. And then they wonder why they can't get support from various people that they want, because either they're with somebody who doesn't believe that material things is what drives you in life, but it's the person you're with and the people you're around. While they were more materially driven. All I can say is, there are people out there who will work their ass off to get to something. That was weird. 22. They go to work, spend all their time. Let's put it this way. You got two different people. You got one who's doing it under good intent, not just self-gain, but they have good intentions. And then you got someone who's going into it with not necessarily good intentions. Who do you think's going to who do you think's going to go further? Very rarely does the person that goes into something with bad intention gets to keep what they were working for very long. The other one, generally, it might turn into a lifelong career, or they get there, they're doing it for a long time, and then they change course because they're like, it doesn't work for me. But usually that's how it works. So imagine being this person who's trying to gain and get through life off of exploiting somebody else and hurting someone else, and trying to get, gain status and image and all this other shit off of somebody suffering. Do you really think they're going to keep that very long? No. Imagine all the time they spent to get where they're at. They usually spent the same amount of time as that other person to get where they're at. The problem is this is going to get taken away really quick. Why? Because this person was abusing their intentions. This person was not. So the downfall of it all is this person gets to learn that even though they put as much work into it as this one did, because what they were doing with what they were working for and doing stupid things, they virtually lost it overnight. Think about what that does to anybody when you sit there and you spend all this time using people and manipulating them to get through life, and then one day you lose it overnight. That's practically, and to a degree, what happens to a lot of people, especially when they're doing things purely out of selfish motives and not caring about who they're hurting or what they're hurting or what they're doing. All they care about is what they're getting out of it. And yeah, I view that even with I view that with our politicians too. A lot of them are in the same way. I view that with a lot of people out there. And I feel like we've got more and more people out there who are more absorbed into what they can get out of something, not realizing that they need to put into it for it to come back. And when they're one of those people, they're constantly putting into something and they're being drained till they're empty, and they're getting basically they're being drained faster than they're being recharged. Eventually there's nothing can be reciprocated at that point. Nothing good will come of it. I've sidetracked myself a little bit there. I've gone all over the place with this whole thing. So yeah, my brain is still right now, I'm still focusing on the quantum entanglement stuff, and because I mean, in a strange way, even with what I've just been talking about, it almost has it's still relatable. It's really fucking weird. So yeah, no. Anyways, I hope you guys have a good day. I can't promise how I'll be in an hour, in a day, in a week, but all I can keep doing is keep moving forward, keep trying to get through this healing process, not bottle shit, let it out, and just try my best. I think my biggest flaw is my patience. I've got to really work on my patience more, because I think I've been like 5-6 months pretty patient when it comes to dealing with this house and dealing with waiting for somebody for 12 years to, 10 of it at least, in my mind at most, to prioritize the relationship so that, we could have gotten married, but they were too busy doing other things. And that's why I couldn't marry them. And I don't think they realized that. I understood that, and they need to understand that too. If they were in my shoes, they wouldn't marry them either. And so I chose to pull back on a lot of things in that time period. And I still gave everything I could. I just wasn't going to give as much sympathies to certain scenarios because they've repeatedly chose to put themselves in really shitty situations. That's only led to me getting really fucking hurt, and not just myself, but even getting themselves hurt and getting others hurt. And they're self-sabotaging, and to a degree I think they do it on purpose. And so there's nothing I can do, and I don't want to get caught to that anchor and get drowned with them. I love them very much. I'm never going to stop loving them. Just like anybody else I've ever loved in my life, I'm never going to stop loving them. I'm not going to hate them. Even when it comes to the couple family members that she entangled herself back up with, I don't hate them. I hate what they've been doing. And so, if that's the life they want to choose to live, and being those kinds of human beings, it's not me they've got to answer to in the end. The fact that they just spent 12 years manipulating someone to intentionally try and ruin them, and in the end, they committed a character assassination on me. They did a good job of it. And I ended up learning a lot from it, though. There's a big lesson in this shit, and I've learned a lot. And so they taught me how to create, not just create boundaries, but to build barriers on those boundaries too, because they're never going to respect it. And none of those people will. Some of them have hated me my entire life for reasons I can't explain. And so, if that's how they want to continue to live life, then that's how they can continue to live. I will live mine as I've always done. without even a thought of them, until they decide to assert themselves into my view, so to speak. I have nothing left other than this shithole as a reminder. I don't even, yeah, where they do have reminders. No matter what, they can delete all the pictures they want, but they know damn well all they have to do is look into one person's face. That's probably why they went through so much hell with their stepdad, because of how much that young man and I do look alike. He's just a bigger, taller version. We do look alike. I've had questions and all about things, but that's just been my brain and everything trying to process all this bullshit, trying to figure out what's real, what's not. That's the level of manipulation I've gone through. And to a degree, I just don't want to bother anymore with figuring out what was real or what's not, but focus more on what really what happened, and process my life for once. That's where part of writing, after that night, I took a break, because I know part of that triggered some of the shit that I've been going through, because it drew up a lot of stuff. And so I've taken a break. I'll go back to it, run through another couple pages or so, and then this is going to be a time consumer. I'm not going to be, I can power write easily, probably, a half a chapter to a chapter in a fucking night. With this, though, I want to do it properly, where I'm not allowing my personal feelings and emotions to dictate necessarily what I write. I'm going to write how it was, not how I thought it necessarily was. I mean, yeah, I'm still having to go from my perspective, and what I went through and experienced, but I don't want to write it from a person that's still hurting, because that'll influence what I'm putting in there, and I just want it to be more honest and not negatively influenced by my own feelings and all from those experiences. So, yeah, I continue to ramble and jump. So, have a good day. Thank you for watching.